So let's just talk about that. HUBERDEAU to potentially get flipped by Calgary at some point. So say Calgary, this is a hypothetical, Calgary doesn't do well, or they're not confident in signing HUBERDEAU and they might lose him for nothing. Maybe they flip him before the deadline or something happens. Or maybe we'll just talk about where HUBERDEAU could go next offseason. So that's what I'm saying, Colorado. I mean, if I'm Colorado, I'm trying to go back-to-back. HUBERDEAU could be the big get they go after from Calgary. They have assets, they have prospects. I'm sure Calgary would be intrigued with. They would have to go deep into their draft picks, but it's interesting. I think HUBERDEAU next to McKinnon would be insane. I think that'd be a nuts duo. And then if Rantanen was on the other wing, I don't know. That would just be by far the best line in hockey. I know Colorado's already had the best line in hockey for time. Boston's line's been in there. Calgary's line wasn't there. So it's interesting. Also, looking at LA, I know some people in the chat have thrown that out. I don't know. The only thing is I don't know if Calgary's flipping HUBERDEAU in the same division. But in terms of prospects, Calgary can look at LA and some of the defense prospects there, some of the center prospects there. If you were to flip HUBERDEAU and want decent prospects, LA would have it. Montreal, not for flipping, but for next offseason, if HUBERDEAU was to go to free agency, Montreal could be on HUBERDEAU's list. I know a lot of people throwing it out there. HUBERDEAU's from Quebec. I feel like Montreal would maybe give HUBERDEAU the bag. I mean, HUBERDEAU on the wing of potentially Caulfield and Suzuki could be nuts. Maybe long-term on a line, on that secondary line. You have Slavkovsky on the top line, but I mean, it's a hot take, but makes sense in terms of where he's from. New Jersey, I think in terms of the Devils were in the playoff spot, but also, I mean, they were trying to go heavy after Johnny Gaudreau. I feel like they would try to pitch to HUBERDEAU to be that number one guy next to Hughes. But again, it just depends where HUBERDEAU wants to go. Rangers, I feel like this would be more of a rental situation. If the Rangers are going for another deep playoff run before the deadline, I feel like the Rangers having the younger pieces, prospects to get a deal like this done. I mean, HUBERDEAU in that top six, including Kreider, Zibanejad, Panarin, whoever else is in there, Trocheck. Trocheck and HUBERDEAU did play together at one point, so could be a fit. The Pittsburgh Penguins, imagine HUBERDEAU next to Crosby and Gensel in the playoffs. It would be insanity. It'd be insane. So Pittsburgh could be another team that if Calgary was flipping HUBERDEAU before the deadline or at some point this next year and they're not confident for an extension, again, if Calgary signs an extension or HUBERDEAU signs an extension with Calgary, then this video will be relevant, but another interesting one. And then imagine, this is like the biggest hot take ever. Imagine Tampa just to freaking get at Florida, just to grow the Florida rivalry. I mean, this is a stretch and a hot take, but Tampa, we know, they make these crazy deals. I don't think Calgary would care as long as they get crazy assets back. I don't know if Tampa would have the sufficient assets to give, but that would be nuts. I could only imagine. And then back to Colorado. I think the other teams to throw out there, I mean, a Stevie Y with Detroit. Never count out Stevie Y for some of these big moves, especially in the offseason. Who knows? Maybe Stevie Y could put quite the pitch forward for HUBERDEAU. I know Leaf fans are just generally going to go into this conversation. I don't think it's realistic, so I'm putting my foot forward and saying that. Outside of that, I don't think there's too many other teams, unless HUBERDEAU is willing to go to a team that is not going to do very well and just wants the bag. Like if HUBERDEAU wants just an easy $11 million per year, there's a lot of other teams that might give it to him. But it's going to be interesting. I think HUBERDEAU might have been blindsided here by Florida, so it's definitely going to be interesting on what fit he tries to find. If he will consider Calgary as a long-term destination for him, a long-term home, or if he'll go somewhere else. So, like I said, if he wants to stay in Canada and go back home, Montreal might be the destination of the offseason, but we'll see what Montreal does this year. There's a lot of teams that could go after Johnny HUBERDEAU, but maybe he does stay in Calgary, and I think that's the hope for Flames fans to kind of make the pain of losing Gaudreau, losing Tkachuk, kind of go away in a little bit. Because if they kept HUBERDEAU on a line with Lindholm, could still be really solid, and then depending on who they have on that right wing between maybe Toffoli, Mangiapane, whoever it is, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye on the HUBERDEAU situation if he signs or if another trade is to come.